I never thought I would tell this story. If you're watching this video, you're probably like me the other day. Curious, hungry for knowledge, but always believing that everything can be explained by logic, by science. My name is Elias Monroe. I am an archaeologist and have only believed in what I saw and heard all my life. God, soul, those things were just legends to me until I arrived at that place, the place where I could never go back to the old person again. That trip came from a strange discovery, a series of electromagnetic signals deep under ancient ice in the southern hemisphere. At that time, I never thought I was about to face one of the greatest secrets humanity has ever touched. To me, it was just a geometric structure, like the pyramids I had studied for many years. But for some reason, right from the first glance on the radar screen, I felt something was wrong. This structure should not be there. Impossible. I still remember that morning. The snow fell lightly. The wind blew through the ice as if whispering something. I stood looking at the stone door half buried under a layer of ice, half nervous, half confused. No one on the team is sure what it is, but something very powerful, very alive, lies inside. Curiosity wins. I walked in. We walked down a narrow corridor, so cold that it felt like time stopped. And then, the stone floor beneath my feet collapsed. Everything went dark. I fall. No screams. Painless. Just falling into the void. They said I was clinically dead for 12 minutes, but what they didn't know was that in those 12 minutes, I lived more than in the previous 60 years combined. I have seen things that cannot be named. Meeting someone whose eyes alone was enough to make all my doubts disappear. But I'll tell you about that later. Right now, I just want to tell you, the person who is listening to me, that if you have ever felt like something was wrong in this world, had a premonition that something bigger was happening that we were not allowed to know about, you are not alone. I used to feel that way too, and it was that feeling that brought me here. We all have a part inside us that craves the truth, not what is shown on TV or written in textbooks, but the truth that lies behind the mask. I used to think truth was something I could measure, analyze, and verify. But it turns out, there are truths that are only revealed when we stand between the boundary of life and death. I'll tell you all, not to convince, but for you to see for yourself. Because if what I see is true, then we don't have much time left. I don't know exactly what happened when I fell into that hole. I just remember the rock face disappearing under my feet, then my body being swept into a void with no gravity, no direction, nothing, just darkness. And then, silence. A kind of silence I've never experienced before. No more machine sounds, no more radio sounds, no more heartbeats. At that time, I did not know that I was clinically dead. I just know I am no longer in my body. At first, I felt lightheaded. It was as if my body had just been relieved of a burden that I didn't even know I was carrying. I looked down and saw myself, my corpse, lying motionless in the middle of the ancient stone room, part of my shoulder crushed by debris falling from the ceiling. But the strangest thing is that I don't feel scared. Don't panic. There was just a feeling of serenity, a peace that I had never felt in my entire life. I thought this was a hallucination, some strange dream of a dying brain. But then I felt something else, a presence. I turned around and I saw them. Entities of light stood around the pyramid. They had no faces, no clear shapes, but they didn't scare me. On the contrary, I feel from them a love, patience, and understanding that no words can describe. And then, a voice rang out, not by sound, but by thought, but very clearly. The voice called my name, Elias. Just one word, but all my defenses melted away. I knew immediately, no one needed to tell me, that the one who had just called me was Jesus. And when I turned around, there he stood. Not like the pictures I've seen. Unlike any description I have ever read, he is more than just an appearance. He is a living feeling. His eyes, I have never seen anything like that. There was no judgment, no blame, just love and an understanding so profound that I felt like my entire life was seen, from my most secret fears to mistakes I thought were buried forever. He walked over and gently touched my shoulder. Nothing more was said, but I understood. I was invited to go with him. And when I agreed, the world around me changed. No more pyramids, no more darkness. We stood in the middle of a space that I don't know how to properly name. Not heaven, but not earth either. A kind of in-between realm where everything is alive. Light doesn't just shine, it sings. Air doesn't just move, it has emotions. Every color has a meaning. It's all like a giant symphony, and I'm just a tiny note, but never out of tune. We walk without feet, just thoughts. I'm not tired at all. On the contrary, I felt light as if I had never had a physical body. Jesus walked beside me, and I felt that even without saying anything, he was still talking to me with his presence. And then, I saw something in front of me. A gate. But it is not a gate as we think. It is a threshold of space, sparkling like a lake in the sunset, both near and far, both gentle and overwhelming. I knew if I walked through there, I would see things that would be impossible to turn back from. I hesitate. And he said, "Don't be afraid. You have lived all your life searching for the truth. Now is the time to see it." I walked over, and the world changed again. I stood in a field of light, but what attracted me was not the sight, but the feeling. A storm of awareness swept over me. I know I am standing in a place beyond time, beyond all definition. And then, before my eyes, an image appeared. A pyramid. Not the pyramids in Egypt, not the model I once studied. This pyramid is older than anything, bigger than all human works. And what gives me goosebumps is this: it's alive. I saw glowing symbols along the tower's body. The symbols are not in any language I know, but I understand them. They are warnings. Jesus looked at me, and his voice was serious. This thing was not built to be worshipped. It is a seal, a gate, a lock. And now people are trying to open it. I was speechless. So many questions, so many doubts, all swept away by a truth I cannot deny. What lies under that pyramid should not be freed. I turned to look at him. In his eyes at that moment, I saw a very deep sadness, as if he had witnessed this repetition thousands of times. "You will see more," he said. "But before that happens, remember this: not all discovery is progress. Not all light comes from heaven." And I know my journey has just begun. I don't know where to begin to describe what I saw after walking through that gate. No more sparkling light. Everything around me transformed into another dimension, as if I had just broken through the mask of the world and entered the soul of the universe. There, I not only looked with my eyes, but with my heart, with my soul. I didn't just see, I felt the truth. Before my eyes, that pyramid appeared again, but this time I saw it as more than just an ancient block of stone. It is an entity, not living the way you and I live, but a kind of awareness, a sealed intelligence. Its structure seems to have been designed not by human hands, but by an intelligence far beyond our current understanding. The stone walls seem to be breathing. Light runs along the grooves, moving like blood vessels, and in its center was an empty space. But I know it's not an empty space, it's a locked place. A place awaits. I stood motionless. It felt like someone had told me a terrible secret, but whispered it in a language my heart understood better than any words. And when I turned to Jesus, he nodded slightly, as if confirming, "That's right. I saw it." He began to show me images, not with hands, but with thoughts. Everything appeared like a film reel right before my eyes. I see the past, ancient times before history was written, a time when humans still lived closer to God than to machines. I saw great civilizations, glowing cities, radiant souls walking in the light, and then I saw the fall. I see entities that do not belong to this world. Initially, they were created to serve life, but then they choose the opposite, choosing control, separation, arrogance. They are strong, intelligent, brilliant beings, but they have turned themselves into enemies of light. And it was those beings who were sealed under that pyramid, not by humanity, but by a higher order of heaven. Jesus said, they were locked away, for their presence could warp the human soul, causing them to forget the truth, to forget their divine nature. But now, that seal is being broken. I see the future. A timeline is opening up, a not-too-distant future. I see scientists, leaders, powerful people standing in front of the door of that pyramid. They had no idea what they were doing. They believe they are making discoveries. They believe they are about to find a new source of energy, healing technology, a leap forward for humanity. They don't know that what they are opening is a curse that has been sealed since the beginning of time. I see familiar images, television news, jubilant press conferences. Scientists excitedly announced, "We have found the first evidence of an extraterrestrial civilization." And then, gradually, those entities appeared, not noisy, not scary, but on the contrary, looking like saviors. They brought technology, knowledge, the promise of a new world. They say things people have always longed to hear. You will have no more pain. You will live longer. You will become smarter. You will become like a god. And people will believe. I saw crowds lining up, excited to receive a new evolutionary step, a type of technology implanted in the body to enhance intelligence, prolong life, and cure all diseases. But Jesus said, very softly, not all gifts come from the light. Not all progress brings life. I saw what happened next. The souls of those people began to fade away, not immediately clear. They still talk, still laugh, still work. But something in their eyes was no longer there. The sacred connection, which linked them to the original source of light, was broken. They no longer feel true love. They can no longer pray with their hearts. They can no longer hear the whispers of conscience. And I stood there, watching it all, feeling helpless. I turned to Jesus, almost choked up. Why don't they see? Why don't they realize it's fake? He replied, sadly but compassionately, because the enemy does not use the sword, he uses deception. He does not force them to choose between good and evil. He makes them believe that evil is good. I can't stand it anymore. I asked him to let me return. I said I wanted to warn them. I want to do something. And Jesus just nodded. I woke up in the middle of the medical room. Whole body aches, eyes stinging, heart beating like thunder. The nurses surrounded me, and I could only utter the first few words. Don't open that gate. Don't trust the pyramid. You may not believe me. You might think I imagined it, that the hypoxic brain created it all. But if you're watching this video, if something inside you resonates, then please don't ignore that feeling, because I believe deep inside each of us, there is a small voice, a part that still remembers the light, still yearns for the truth. And you know what? No matter which way the world turns out there, the truth is always there. It's not where we measure and test, but where we listen with our hearts. I will continue this story, but if there's anything I want you to take away from this section, it's this. Don't let wisdom get the best of you. Don't let curiosity cloud your intuition. And when something inside you says something isn't right, believe it. Because sometimes just a hunch at the right time can save the soul. When I opened my eyes in the hospital room, the first feeling was a strange sense of lostness, not because I didn't know where I was, but because I realized I was no longer the same person. My body is still the same body, but my mind and soul, it's as if they've been turned into a completely different chapter. Nurses rushed around. Doctors checked vital signs. I heard them whispering, "He's been dead for 12 minutes, and now he's sitting up like nothing happened." A doctor bent down and asked if I remembered anything. I looked at him and replied in a hoarse voice, "I saw the truth." They thought I was delirious. A few people laughed lightly, but the look in my eyes at that time was unmistakable. A young nurse, standing silently at the back of the room, looked at me intently. Her eyes showed fear, but not fear of me, but fear that something in what I said might be true. I later learned that she had heard similar stories from her grandfather, a man who worked in research campaigns in Antarctica and disappeared without a trace. In the days that followed, I lay quietly in the hospital, looking at the white ceiling, thinking endlessly about what I should do with all I had seen. There are times when I want to believe that it was just a dream, that I imagined it all. But every time I close my eyes, I still feel Jesus' hand on my shoulder, still see the gate of light, still hear the warnings that seem to echo from the other side of reality. I know I can't keep that to myself, but speaking out as a scientist, as someone who has stood on stage, spoken at international conferences, means accepting to give up all prestige and reputation. Who will believe me? That I saw a living pyramid, that inside it contained something beyond imagination, and that Jesus, not a concept, but a real living being, appeared and showed it all to me. I was very scared. I don't mind losing my reputation, but I'm afraid that if I say the wrong thing, if I warn in the wrong way, people will be even more blind. And then, something unexpected happened. A stranger sent me an email, strange address, anonymous. The content was just one line. "I know you're telling the truth, and that has already begun." Attached is an internal memo from a global research organization with the subject line, "Preparing Media Phase 1, Revealing Extraterrestrial Civilization Under the Ice." I shivered. I knew immediately. This was exactly what Jesus had warned about. They won't release the truth once. They will drip, little by little. Public opinion will be warmed up by strange news reports, man-made signs discovered under the ice, an ancient temple-like structure, an unknown form of language. And then, one day, they will say, "We are not alone in the universe." I decided to start telling my story, at first just with a few people close to me, close friends, people I believe have open hearts. Some people are silent, others burst into tears. They said there was something in what I said that made them feel cold down their spines, as if they had known it for a long time but didn't dare face it. An old friend, who worked for an international stratigraphic agency, called me after reading the notes I had sent him privately. He only said one sentence, "Elias, you're not the only one who saw it." I asked, "What do you see?" He was silent for a long time, then softly said, "I also fell down, but I didn't dare to turn back." I get it. Not everyone can bring back those memories, and even fewer people have the courage to speak out, because this world is not kind to the truth, especially when that truth doesn't fit with what they want to believe. I started writing, not a study, not a lecture. It is a testimony from soul to soul. I know I'm not the only one who has experienced this. I know there are people everywhere who have a premonition that the world is changing, not just climate, economics, or technology, but a deeper soul-level change. A crack in the layer of connection between humans and the divine light. If you are one of them, if you have ever felt like there was a dim calling in the middle of the night, if you have ever found yourself waking up in the middle of a dream feeling like you just forgot something very important, then you are being called. I don't say I'm a prophet, I'm not a monk, I'm just a person who believed in what he saw and heard, and then was completely changed by inexplicable things. I don't ask you to believe me, but if what I say moves you, even just a little, then please don't ignore that feeling. I believe that the truth always has a way of reaching the right person at the right time, not to scare them, but to awaken the bright part in them, the part that this world always tries to put to sleep. I know I will still face many difficulties ahead. Maybe I will be defamed. Maybe someone will try to silence me. But I also know one thing for sure. I saw it. And once you see it, you can't pretend you haven't seen it anymore. I share this not to be believed, but to plant a seed. Maybe you're not ready today. But maybe one day, when you are faced with a choice that the whole world hails as progressive, but your heart whispers something else, you will remember this story. And if that happens, then I've done my part. The gate has not been fully opened yet, but it's slowly cracking, and the keepers of the light need to wake up before it's too late. I know, after everything I just told you, you may still be confused. You may still be wondering, is this real? And you know what? I don't blame you. If I had never experienced it with my own eyes and soul, I would probably be as skeptical as you. But that's why I share it, not to scare you, which leaves you prepared. So when things start happening, you won't feel like you're alone. I'm not saying you have to leave the world, give up science, or turn your back on everything modern. I'm just inviting you to do something very simple. Keep your heart capable of feeling. Don't let promises of convenience, upgrades, power make you forget what makes you truly human. Because I have seen what happens when the soul is changed without the person realizing it. I saw their eyes. People who once had light, now empty. They are not forced, not coerced. They voluntarily enter into it because it is wrapped in a very sweet package, a better life. And that is the scariest part. I didn't come here to tell you to believe anything, but I pray that when that day comes, when they announce a historic discovery, when miracles seem to be given as gifts to humanity, you will remember that not all light comes from heaven, and not every miracle brings life. If there is a small part of you that feels something is not right, believe that part. Keep your soul strong. Pray. Reconnect with the sacredness you once believed in or felt as a child, because that's the part of you they can't control. It's the only part that can't be faked. I don't know what the future will hold, but I know, for those who still keep the light in their hearts, who still keep the truth alive, there is still hope. And if you're listening to me right now, then maybe you're one of them.